What's happening, people? I'm DJ Grace, and in today's live stream I'm going to show you how to chop up breaks in Ableton Live. Now, I've been doing these live streams every Sunday for the last few weeks, so I just decided at the last minute, why not just jump on and do another one? So the first thing I usually like to do when I get into Ableton Live is delete the tracks I'm not going to use, or at least that I'm not going to start with. So I've just deleted these two MIDI tracks, and I'll delete one of these audio tracks, and I'm just going to set the BPM to 140. Now, I like to keep my breaks in this production folder, followed by jungle breaks. And the first one I'm going to use is the Amen. So if I just make sure this isn't warped, this is what it sounds like. So that's the classic Amen break, needs no introduction, and it starts off with this trumpet part, and then you've got sort of 3 bars of the drum break. Now, one thing that I like to do sometimes is just use the second half, so it starts from around here, so it's there. So I just pressed Command and E to chop it. That slices it into these 2 sections, and then just click the left section and click delete, and that gets rid of it. So we should be left with 2 bars of the Amen break. Once you've got that, and it does sound like there's a little bit of a click at the end, so you can just zoom right in, grab the end and hold down Command and just drag it to the left a bit, and that way it'll get rid of that click. Now what you want to do is just get the Amen break and put it on the start of a bar. For example, I'm just putting it on bar 9 here, and let me just tidy up the beginning as well. Put that on bar 9. Now you can see that, how many bars long is this? So I was supposed to just use the last 2 bars, so I'm going to put it to there. And you can see that this is very almost on. So if I just turn back on warping and grab the end, hold down shift, and then just move that onto bar 12, should be a 2 bar loop now. Let's turn on the metronome a sec. And one good way to tell whether it's doing what you want it to do is just to click the clip and then press Command and L, and it'll just be looping. And then if it loops well, then you know that you're onto something. And actually, I'm going to turn the tempo up a bit to 145. Alright, so now you've got your Amen warped to the right tempo of the project. And shout out Samuel Fox, I've just opened the chat now. Thanks for joining me, man. So there's various different ways you can chop up breaks, and I'm going to demonstrate a couple of the ways today. Now, first way, I'm just going to copy bits of it and paste them. So for example, well, what you can do is actually, if we just go through and chop this up into different sections, I'm just going to put it on an 8th note for simplicity. Now, just click on the line and press Command and E, and that chops it. It stands for edit, but that's just chopped it into the first kick. I'll do that again, and in fact, if you just use the right arrow on your keyboard, you can press right, Command and E, right, Command and E, right, Command and E. Just keep going through the whole thing until you've got it chopped up into these little sections that are all 1/8 of a note long. Sorry, 1/8 of a bar long. All right, and you can even go through and label these if you want. So for example, it goes kick, kick, snare. So you could do kick 1, kick 2, snare 1. Then it's shuffle 1, shuffle 2. And I'm going to go through as quickly as possible so it's less boring for you. We've got, that's going to be kick 2. This one, I'm just going to call it ride. Snare 2, if I'm not mistaken. So that's snare 2. Then this will be shuffle 3. Shuffle 4. No, that's actually a double kick. Then we've got a snare, so that'll be snare 3. Oops. And then we're going back to the shuffle, so it'll be shuffle 4 and 5. This will be crash part 1. And you can actually just make that as double, so it's instead of an eighth of a bar, it's now a quarter note, you know. And the last one, what is that? That's another snare. So that's that's snare 4. All right. Thanks for bearing with me because I know it's tedious, but it's good to get them labeled so that you can see at a glance what they are. For example, what you can do now is all the kicks, you can shade them as red. All the snares, you can make them yellow, which it basically already is. All the shuffles, you can make them green. There's another kick, so that's red. That's a ride, that gets its own special colour. In fact, we'll leave that as the sort of lighter yellow. Snare 2, darker yellow. The shuffle, we're going to make it green. The double kick, that's going to have its own colour as well. It's sort of this pink colour. And then the snare is yellow again. Shuffle is green. Shuffle again is green. This crash could give that a colour. How about that colour? And then snare is the other yellow. All right, so now we've got it chopped up, color coded. Now it's time to actually start making a tune with it, or making a drum pattern, you know. So you can do, I mean, what you can do now is you can have a listen and see which of the hits you think sounds good. So you've got 3 different kicks there, for example. Choose your favorite. So you can get one of the kicks. Let's say if you decided that kick 2 is your favorite out of the 3 kicks there, just paste it there, right? And then I'm going to get this ride and I'm going to paste that there. And what I'm going to do is just highlight both of those and then press Command and D to duplicate. Now we've got kick ride, kick ride. And I'm going to get a snare. So let's have a listen to the different snares. I mean, I'll just grab this one, put that there. So we've got kick ride, snare. And then I'm going to take this shuffle, shuffle, put that there, followed by another snare, which could be this last one here. What this has given us is basically a half-time pattern, which you could say is kind of like dubstep because it's in the 140 sort of tempo, and the snare is on the 3rd beat, so it goes like this. Obviously, it's not really like dubstep because it comes with another snare after, but the point is the snare is on where it should be for that dubstep type pattern. So this is a way that you can make some half-step breaks. But then obviously in the next bar, we can just take it back to standard breaks with a kick, ride, snare, shuffle, shuffle, and then like a kick snare, different kick this time, and then the snare from here. So let's listen to those 2 bars together. Actually, there's going to need to be one more thing at the end, so it could be a ride, it could be a shuffle. Let's put the ride there. Alright, so what I like to do is just highlight these 2 bars, press Command and L, now that's a little loop, and you can play it and see if it's looping well. It's good, but I think maybe it should be, instead of the ride at the end, it should be a shuffle, like this. And let me know in the chat if the volume of the mic and the volume of the Amen Breake are roughly appropriate with each other, or if I need to turn one of them up or down. So once you've got those 2 bars, you can decide to either duplicate them and then change it up a bit, or you can just keep going with slices from here and make a new pattern, you know. And this is the thing about jungle, it tends not to really loop, you know. When you're making any kind of jungle or some down-tempo jungle type music, sometimes it's better to just keep it going, and instead of a loop, it's just like one big long continuous thing of random slices. So it could go, this time it could go kick, shuffle. Kick, shuffle, shuffle, snare. Let's have a listen to that. So I'll just move this loop marker over to here. So this is the next 2 bars that we're doing. This is going to be a different pattern altogether, and it's one that I've used before, and it's kind of random, so it's like kick, shuffle, shuffle, snare, shuffle, shuffle. Let's try it with these, and then kick, shuffle, shuffle, snare, shuffle, shuffle, snare, shuffle, like that again, you know. And then if you want to, you can just sort of drag sideways to highlight a load of it, and then just press Command and D, duplicate it, and then change it up. So this one, instead of that like that, it could take these first 2 kicks together, which I've not used yet. The classic Amen double kick, or like kick, kick 1, kick 2, like this. You know, it's all about experimenting and just putting the slices in different orders and seeing what it sounds like. So all together. So it's doing some kind of weird stuff. These 3 shuffles in a row is something that you don't usually hear, you know, and maybe that's for a good reason. Maybe it sounds terrible, but my point is, this is how you slice it up, and this is how you experiment with the slices. And another one that's not been used yet is this double kick. So how about if I copy that and paste it here? So it goes shuffle, shuffle. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'll just move those 2 shuffles to there and put this double kick here. Now it goes like this. And then there's this crash, not been used yet, so I'll paste that. I mean, would it work just at the end if it goes shuffle, shuffle, crash, and then just loops back? So that's basically how you can just like slice and rearrange it. But the next level of complexity is when you start to edit some of these slices. So this snare, for example, what you want to do is make sure warping is turned on. And then if you just hold down shift and drag the end of the slice, you can make it double the length, and it sort of time stretched it. Now what you can do is, instead of the complex algorithm for warping it, you can put that onto texture and then just have a play with the grain size, maybe turn it down a bit so it sounds like this. Alright, so that was the concept, but it doesn't sound good there, so I'm going to put it somewhere else. So what I'm actually going to do is take this snare and stretch that one out so it takes over the kick, and then go in and do the same again. So if we put it on texture, change the grain size to smaller, it's going to give it that old school time stretched vibe from the original jungle days, and it sounds like this. You know, and obviously, needless to say, I'm just doing this as quickly as possible, so certain bits are sounding rough, you know, and the way this crash ends sounds a bit terrible. So you've got these fade markers where you can just bring this in, and then it gives it a bit of a fade out at the end. So let's see if that's sounding a little bit better. And then another thing that you can do to vary it a bit is down here, you've got this arrows both ways button, and that is the reverse button. So if you click that, you see how the snare is now facing the other way, and it sounds like this. And one thing that's good to do is like do a reverse one into a forward one. So for example, if I duplicate snare 4 and then reverse again so it's forward, it sounds like this. You know what I mean? So that's amazing. You got to be strategic with where you place these things though, you know. I'm showing you the techniques, but really they need to be in the right place for them to sound good. So one thing you could do is, instead of this second ride here, that could be the reverse snare. So if you just hold down Alt as you drag it, and you might see that there's a little symbol that gets like a plus symbol there, which means that when you let go, instead of just moving it, it copies it. Now you've got two snare 2s in a row. Now, if I reverse that one, you basically get the reverse snare into the forward snare, and it sounds like this. Alright, so that's basically the way how you chop up a break using audio in Ableton Live. Now there are various other ways to chop breaks, and I'm going to show you another one now. So if I go back into the browser, and by the way, if you're enjoying this or you've learned something, can you please hit the like button, and it'll help the stream to be shared with more people. So anyway, I've got my browser here. I've got the different jungle breaks, and one of them is called Hot Pants. So I'm just going to drag that in. I'll put that after everything. And this one, you know, with the Amen, it had like a bit of a trumpet at the beginning, and it was a little bit messy, and we needed to trim it and all the rest of it. But the great thing about the Hot Pants break is if I just press Command and L so this bit is looped, it should already be on the beat. So I'm just going to get rid of all these things. All right, so this is what it sounds like. And the reason why, by the way, when I press Command and T, you might notice now that there are some devices already on there. And the reason why is because before I was showing somebody how to make your default audio track already have devices on. And I'll show you that now. So imagine I've just dragged in a normal audio track and it's completely blank, right? And then I've put on the glue compressor and I've put on the EQ8 and I've put on the reverb. And now I want this to be my default audio track. All I would do is go to where it says 3 audio here, and that's the track. Right click and go save as default audio track. Now what I'm going to do actually is delete this stuff. And then I'm going to save this as a default audio track. Now, yes, I want to overwrite it. Now when I press Command and T, it should just make a normal audio track. And when I drag in a break from my breaks folder, it shouldn't automatically have any of those effects on it. So anyway, here's the Hot Pants break. So you saw before how I sliced it into 1/8 notes and then color coded them all. There is another way of doing this, and it's in MIDI. So if you just right click it and go to slice to new MIDI track, click that and then make sure it's on 1/8 notes. Now there are different ways of doing this. You can choose to have it on the transients and then it'll make a new slice for every hit. Or you can do it this way, which is the 1/8 notes way. In fact, in a bit I'll show you the other way as well. So it's just sliced that up and it's put it onto a new drum rack. And in this drum rack, you've got these 16 slices, and each one of them is a slice of that break. Now, one thing you always need to remember to do is turn down this loop length to 0. All right? That's I'll just show you what happens if you don't. When I play slice 1, you hear how it just loops it. So what you need to do is just turn loop length to 0. When you play each slice, it'll just play it as a normal slice. All right, so the next thing to do is to go through each one of these slices and make sure it starts and ends where you want it to. So slice 1 is a kick. It starts right at the beginning. It ends in the right place, so that one's fine. Let's move to the next one. It starts in a good place. It ends before the next slice comes in, which is exactly what we want. This one, I mean, you can decide whether you want to tighten them up or whether you want to leave them kind of a little bit looser. But in this case, you can see that there is already a little bit of a thing before the snare. So what I'm going to do is put it to the start of that thing. And it means there still will be a gap before the snare comes in. So what's the point? Why do you want a gap before it? Well, the reason is because when these slices are all, when I put MIDI notes on the grid, then some of these slices will actually still have a bit of groove in them because I've left a tiny gap. So for example, with this one, this is like a double hit and it sounds like this. So it goes chick, and then before that there is a tiny gap, which means that when I put the notes on the grid, it'll still have swing. There again you can see there's a gap before the 2 hits of the shuffle. Next one is the start is okay, but if I zoom right in on the end, you're going to see exactly why you need to go through and tidy these up. And the reason is because it's bringing in the next hit that we didn't want. So you can just drag that a little bit to the left and it tidies it up. Again, with this one, I mean, sometimes it's good to use that little And there's a plugin that came out recently called Snapback, and I think this is exactly what it's trying to mimic. It's like this little sound before the hit. I'm going to keep going through and just making sure the start and end point of each one is roughly where we want it to be. And this one is it's going to give us quite a swung snare. And actually I'm just going to leave it like that for now, and then we'll see how it sounds. And maybe if it's too much, I'll come back in and tighten it up later. You know, this one, I'll put it to there. It's all about trial and error with this, you know. You can always program in the hits, and then, program in these MIDI notes, and then if it starts to sound a way that you don't want it to, you can always go back in and edit the start and end points. Anyway, these are all called slice 1, slice 2. One thing we could do is go through like we did with the Amen. You see how I renamed everything? Kick 1, kick 2, snare 1, shuffle, shuffle, you know? That's really what I should do with these. So if you don't mind just sitting through that for a moment, I know it's kind of tedious to watch, but it's good to be organised, you know? So I'll call that kick 1, shuffle 1, and if you think this is kind of tedious and boring to watch, one thing you could do is just go down and press the subscribe button and like this video while you're waiting. That's shuffle 2, that's shuffle 3. There's only 16, so just bear with me a sec. And I don't even know what to call that one. I'm going to call that one mini kick. Snare 2. This is a shuffle, but it's like it's definitely got some kick in there. It's got some bass, so I'm going to show you in a bit how you can make sure that each one of these slices has exactly the right amount of bass in it if you want to EQ out some of the bass. What was this one? So that's a kick, that's kick 2. Shuffle 5. Snare, you might have noticed that all the snares line up with each other. As in, you've got that slice, that slice, that slice, and let's see. Okay, that one breaks the pattern. Snare 4. And what was this? Another shuffle, that's shuffle 6. So yeah, as you can see, there are many shuffles. That one sounds more just like, it is a double hit, but it sounds more like a single one. Anyway, I'll just call that shuffle 7. We've got snare 4. There are many shuffles, and that's a good thing, because we got a choice of which ones we want to use when we make our pattern. Alright, so that's all 16. Thanks for bearing with me. Now, we've already got a MIDI clip in here, and the MIDI clip contains no notes, so that's ready for us to program in some notes. So you can do different patterns here, including you could do kick 1, kick 2, snare 3, and then you could do these shuffles. And you've got the choice of all these different kicks and snares to use, and 9 different shuffle slices. And sorry about the metronome. And sometimes it's good to do some bits you do it as a normal pattern, normal like straight 2-step type thing. Other times you could do something mad. and put the snare in a completely different place than people are expecting. And there's this mini kick one. And you can even put the snare on the one if you want, so it goes snare, shuffle, shuffle, snare, shuffle, shuffle. Stuff like this, you know, go wild. So anyway, that's how you can slice up a break using MIDI. And then one thing you can do is create a MIDI clip underneath the Amen. And then inside this MIDI clip, you can either decide to do the same pattern that the Amen's doing, or you can do a completely different pattern. And the thing I was just doing there where it goes snare, shuffle, shuffle, that could work well with the Amen. In fact, I'm just going to turn this down a bit. So are we still on an 8th note? Yes, 8th note. You can press this little headphone symbol here, and that is the preview or monitoring button, so that whenever you press any of these notes on the little keyboard, you get to hear it. So what I was doing before was snare, shuffle, shuffle, snare, shuffle, shuffle. And let's see how that works with what I programmed of the Amen. It's a bit chaotic, isn't it? I mean, we could try and program in something that goes along with what the Amen's doing, which was and so sometimes it's good to program it so that the kicks and snares, sometimes they're together and then sometimes they just go off, you know. So for the first bar they're together, and then you may notice that this snare doesn't come in at the same time as one of the snares of the Amen, but that's okay. And then it goes to the kick, in which case you can just do two of the same kick like that, kick, or you can decide to put this one up to, and by the way, I'm using the arrow keys, so you can select a slice and then use the arrow keys to go like that. So it goes kick. So let's have a listen. So it should go kick, snare. I mean, in the Amen there's a crash, and in the Hot Pants Break there isn't a crash. So sometimes it's just, if you want to layer them and try and make them do the same thing, you would just layer a kick with the, because the the crash of the Amen is actually a kick crash. So anyway, that's a bit about how to loop the Amen, how to chop up the Amen using audio, how to chop up the hot pants break using MIDI. And you may have noticed that in the audio way, there was more opportunities to do mad little edits, including reversing bits, including speeding bits up and speeding bits down, and all the rest of it. But you can also do that in MIDI as well. So let me show you that. If I grab snare 1, for example, and you see over here how you've got all of these different squares, and they represent loads of different places where you can put drum hits within the drum rack, right? I'm going to drag snare 1 over to the grid here. This is the next 16 up, right? And I'm going to drop it where it was, which is in this third square along, and I'm holding down Alt, and that way, when I let go, the snare is there as well, but it's also where it was, you know, so I've copied it. Now, this one, you can decide that you want to reverse it. You can decide that you want to pitch it. For example, if we go over to controls here, I could transpose it. In fact, what I could do is put it over here, and then holding down Alt, drag it to the next one, and put this to a +2. Hold down Alt, drag it to the next one, and I'm going to put this to +3. Hold down Alt, drag it to the next one, and I'm going to put this to +4. And I'm sure you know what I'm going to do next with it. I'm going to program a little bit where I use all my little pitched snares. So I want it to go something like this. And I usually tend not to layer slices of break on top of each other. So if you've got some new slices there, I would take out the slices that were already there, so you've not got two slices of the same break playing at the same time. So anyway, let's have a listen to this. So it's gone slower than I thought it would. I should have had this on 16, and I should have just gone like this. So they're all just 16th notes. All right. I think it should go so it does this and then it does the crash. How about this now? So if anyone's got any questions, please jump in the chat and ask me, and I will be happy to answer you. And in the meantime, I'm going to delete this, I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to put these two tracks into a group together. So if I just click Amen, the track with the Amen on it, hold down Shift, and then click the other one, that's the Hot Pants track. I'm going to press Command and G. That creates a group of tracks, and then you click the first one and press, click the group, sorry. Command and R is rename. All right, so we're going to rename it as Breaks. In fact, I usually like to do capital letters for groups. So the Breaks group is in capital letters. We've got Amen. Just call it Amen. Hot Pants. Just to tidy things up a bit, Now, once you've got them in a group together... Oh yeah, I did say I was going to tell you how to EQ the individual slices. So in the hot pants break, let's go back in. And if we go down to where the slices of the break are, what you can do is you can literally go to audio effects and find your EQ8. And you can just drag that onto individual slices. For example, this snare here, let's say we wanted to take out a bit of the low end of the snare. I've just dragged the EQ8 onto the snare, and you can tell that this EQ is on just one individual slice rather than the whole drum rack, because it's a very thin line that separates this particular simpler within the drum rack and the EQ8. I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but it's a very slim line between the two, which means it's sort of connected to that. Anyway, what you do is you just get one of these and then turn it into a high pass filter and put it where you want it. And now it's literally just that snare within the hot pants break that has been EQ'd. Let's say if you thought that EQ was absolutely perfect, the way you've dialed it all in and everything, right? You want to put that onto the next snare of the break. So you grab that and keep the mouse button held down and go over here. Come on. And usually it would kind of acknowledge the fact that I want to go over. And I don't know if it's because when I'm doing these tutorials, and by the way, yeah, so you just drag it over and you hold down Alt and you let go, and it's now on that slice as well. And I was just going to say, when I'm doing these tutorials, the way my screen is, I've basically got it zoomed in a bit. Why have I got it like that? Because if you look in the stats of my YouTube viewers and everything, over 50% of you are watching this on smartphones. So in order for you guys to see the drum rack and the EQ8 and everything at a decent size, I've actually zoomed in my Ableton Live interface to 160%. In case you're wondering if I'm like using like my laptop screen or not. No, it's a proper size monitor. It's just super zoomed in. So if you appreciate being able to see this on a smaller screen, make sure you smash that like button. Anyway, let me bring in the next instrument, because I think even though the title of this is just how to chop up breaks, I think it would be fun if we just turn it into a tune. So I'm going to get the wavetable, I'm going to put that in there. And then let's just sort of program in a bit of a bass line. So I'm going to go to options and turn on the MIDI key, the computer MIDI keyboard. So now I can use the middle row of my keyboard. And obviously that's the wrong octave. And it's all about just changing the parameters of this wavetable to make a nice bass sound. So obviously you may or may not know that a sine wave makes a great sub bass, but it also has no harmonics on it, so it can't really be heard on smaller speakers. One thing I'm going to do now is actually just go to audio effects and find the spectrum analyzer and put that on the master. Now, why do I put it on the master and not on the bass line itself? The reason is because now when it's on the master, you can essentially listen to or look at the frequency of any sound within your project, right? So if I want to solo the Amen break and then play it, I can watch the frequencies of that, or I can watch the frequencies of this. Or I can see what frequency my bass line's at. So it's just an easy way of having one spectrum analyzer on the whole project, and then you just solo things to see where they are. So for example, the note that I'm holding down here is at 44 Hertz. And I also wanted to demonstrate to you about the sort of lack of harmonics. Now you can see there are some fuzziness down here, but these are, if you look where they are, they're actually at like minus 150 decibels, which is not exactly loud, put it that way. So what we want to do now is go back to the wavetable synth, and obviously we're going to keep our sine wave as the sort of weightiness of our bass patch, but I'm going to turn on oscillator 2, and then you can, there's hundreds of shapes in here that you can choose from, or you can just slide this up so that it's more of a triangle or more of a sawtooth wave or something, or you can sort of automate this so it's a bit of both. And I'll show you how to do that in just a sec. And you can, once you've got it sounding how you want, you can also use this volume controller to blend it in with the sub bass oscillator. So if you fade down the triangle or the sawtooth wave, excuse me, you're going to hear more of the sub, and then just with this layered on top of it. So let's have a listen to the drums and see how we're feeling about the bass line. And by the way, you can make this wobble. I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's put this back up a bit. So, this is turning into a bit of a wavetable tutorial. So, you've got the matrix here, right? The matrix is a grid, and you've got things along the top and you've got things down the side, and then each one of these boxes corresponds to both. For example, this is the LFO1 column, and then here you've got oscillator 1 position, which is this slider. You've got oscillator 1 warp. You've got oscillator 2 position. Sorry, so that's this slider because this is oscillator 2, right? So if you were to, for example, turn up this number here, and this corresponds with LFO1 and oscillator position 2. That means that as the LFO wobbles, it's going to make this slider wobble up and down, which I should be able to demonstrate now. So as you can see, it's the wave, it's actually because this is called basic shapes, and it goes from sine wave to square wave and everything in between. And since I've put that to LFO1, it's the position within the wavetable that goes up and down, okay? Alright, so that's kind of a wobble. Alright, and then what about if you want to change the rate that it's wobbling at? Well, that's when you click into LFO1 and you've got the rate here, and it can be in hertz and it can also be timed to the project. So you've got a little note up here. Click the little note, you'll see that rate is no longer in hertz. Now it says an 1/8 note. And what happens when I press it? It does that, and then you can change it to a 1/16. It wobbles faster. You can change it to a 1/4. It wobbles slower. Alright, so that's one way of making it wobble. Now let's go back to the matrix, and with LFO1, I'm going to automate this filter frequency. And the great thing about the wavetable synth is that whenever you touch a control, it's like, oh, you want to automate that, do you? Let me just add that to the matrix. So you can see now, filter 1 frequency has been added to the matrix. And then all you do is find the box that corresponds with filter frequency 1 and LFO1 and just turn that up. I mean, you can turn it all the way up to 100, or you can turn it up a bit. And then when I press the note, And let me just get rid of the first one we did. So now all you're hearing is the filter frequency one. And you see the filter frequency is moving backward and forward thanks to our LFO. Which is great. I mean, in the original dubstep days, this wavetable synth wasn't part of Ableton Live. It came later in maybe version 10, I think. So, but if it was, needless to say, everybody would have been using this to make their wobble bass. And if you put this wavetable position to more of a triangle wave, it's a little bit more of a subtle sound rather than like a squelchy one, you know? Anyway, I'm also going to bring in the 808, so let me go to Instruments, Simpler, and anyone who's watched my videos will probably have seen me do this before, but this is how I do my 808s. So I just type in 808 into the search and go into where they are and choose the 808, and I always use Super Dope, so this time I'm going to use 808 Big instead. I just want to shout out a couple of people in the chat. So big up Padu. Thanks for your comment, man. Thank you, MFC Barcelona. And big up 3 Meter Jim. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching the stream. I really appreciate you guys. So I've got the 808 Big in the Simpler. Next thing I'm going to do is grab a tuner and put it after that. Now, with the A key on my computer keyboard, which is actually a C on the musical keyboard, I'm just going to play this, and if I put it into an octave that the tuner can actually hear, I want to tune this to C, right? Now, with this particular sample, it's basically in C already, but it's at minus 40 cents. So how can we fix that? Click on Controls of the Simpler, and you're going to see the transpose. We don't need transpose in this case because it's already a C. But if you turn up detune, just keep turning it up until the thing is actually a C. So maybe it's somewhere in between, and I wonder if I can do a half cent if I hold down shift. No. So I've got to just choose 40 cents, and that makes it a C. Now let's play the drums again. To create a MIDI clip, you just highlight the section, Shift, Command and M, and that creates a MIDI clip, and then you can go in here and then make sure the little headphone symbol is turned on, and then this keyboard will be activated. And you can, at some point you're going to have to decide what key your tune is in, right? So dum. Yes, boss. Alright, so it's F. I was like, I'm just going to do it by ear this time. Let me just play the little keyboard. And then it turned out that the note that I was thinking of was F anyway. And I don't know how to pronounce your name, man. But big up. I've seen you in the comments. And thank you for supporting me. And thank you for tuning into the stream. I really appreciate it, man. So, boom, boom, boom. And then I want to go doo-dum. Shout out Josh. Thank you, man. It's going to have a gap and then it's going to go doo-dum. Where is it there? Yeah, man, I think I have to be honest with you, the 140 type stuff, on my channel at least, it seems to be more popular than drum and bass tutorials. So my biggest and best video so far, that's like on almost 10,000 views, was like the how to make 140 breaks tune, you know? So it just turned out as a bit of a coincidence that when I started this one and I'm like, how to chop up breaks, it just happens to be a pretty similar one, but this type of content's pretty popular. And I just want to go boom, boom, boom. Actually, you know what? I got sidetracked there because I was supposed to be making the wobble bass. So I'll just do boom, boom, boom. And it can go what. Get rid of this bit here. So I'm just going to highlight a section on the wavetable channel and then press Shift, Command and M. That creates a MIDI clip, and then can draw in some notes, and obviously you need to listen out for those notes of the 808 and where they stop. So probably from here. You know. Thank you so much for listening, Josh. It's like it usually starts off and I'm not even sure if anyone's watching because no one's in the chat, you know, and then suddenly everyone starts talking. I'm like, yes, you guys are here. So, you know, I've always wanted to just like make a tune together. So if you guys have any suggestions of how this tune should go or what you would like to hear or anything, just let me know and we can make a tune together, you know? So my thoughts right now is that this LFO should be going what. So what's that, an 8th or a 16th? So more about the wavetable synth. As well as the matrix, you've got the main envelope. If you click amp here, this is the main envelope, right? So if you feel like the attack is too quick, you can just move this here. And also you've got ADSR down the bottom and you can just drag these up and down. So the release, for example, you could shorten that right down. And then when I play the wobble again, hopefully it's going to cut off at the end of each note. But you do have to be careful that there's no click or any, you know, that it doesn't end too abruptly and make some sort of weird click sound. So let's just play the two basses together. So that goes F, F, C. That's it. So you go F, F, B, and then the wobbles are B. And then these could just carry on. And I was saying in another stream, but it bears repeating, that when you're programming in these 808 notes, if they go into each other, it makes a bit of a click. What you do is highlight everything. In fact, you can just press Command and A, and that makes sure every single note is selected. Grab the end of one of the notes and hold down the Command button and drag slightly to the left, and they're all going to be slightly shorter notes. And then, when you play them, with a bit of luck, there's slightly less click. There's another couple of tricks that you can do to minimize clicks. Number one, start the 808 sample from perhaps a tiny bit later, for example here. But you need to make sure it's on what's known as a zero crossing, which is where the line of the waveform crosses over the straight line that's there. That's a zero crossing, and as long as you start your sample from a zero crossing, it doesn't matter whether you start it from the beginning or halfway through. And I want to big up my brother Mark Pearson. Thanks for locking in, man. And then the other thing is this attack here. If you just bring that up a bit, if there is any click at the beginning, that's going to make it just sort of fade in and you won't hear the click. And you can do the same thing here with the wavetable. You've got the amp. This is the attack here. You know, anything around 20 to 30 milliseconds will make sure it just smoothly fades in and there's no click. Now what you can do, now we've got a wavetable bass and a 808 sampled bass, you can just select both of these by clicking one, holding down Shift, select the other one, Command and G to group them together, Command and R to give it a name. We're going to call it bass with capital letters, and then you can decide to put a load of effects on that. This is also where you can do your side chaining, etc. And I know Mark Pearson likes a bit of wobble bass since he used my dubstep tune in his video intros. So with the saturator, I always turn down the output first and then turn up the drive, usually by the same amount, so 20 dB in this case. And that means that even though you're driving the hell out of it, it should be still roughly the same volume. And that's like just highlighted something, you know. I just carried on driving it up to 24 dB, and it's just sort of highlighted that the first, like when the wobble bass hits, it's got a big peak, and I guess that might be this here. Well, obviously one thing I can do there, if we just go back to the wavetable and just put a compressor directly after the wavetable synth, and here you can see that peak that I was talking about. So what we do is bring it down to there. That's just catching that peak. Anyway, here it is with the breaks. And then it could go boom, 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 like an octave up on the fourth one. So yeah, there's a lot to do, because this can't just keep looping the same bits of break as well. So I've got 4 bars so far. Let's get back into it. So it could go kick, kick, shuffle, snare, It could go, this is another pattern. Kick, shuffle, snare, shuffle. Kick, snuffle, like this. And then we'll go to the kick, kick. Kick, kick, we'll just do a normal one like kick, kick, snare for shuffle, shuffles. Kick, snare, shuffle. Kick, snare, like that. Copy. It's just all about copying bits and putting them. Or you can either do that or you can hold down Alt and drag one. And don't neglect the other ones like the ride slice, or there is the double kick slice, and it sounds like this. So I'll have the ride there again. Snare, shuffle, shuffle. So it goes kick, snare, shuffle, and then on the last one, we'll just copy this bit. Kick, shuffle, shuffle, snare, shuffle, shuffle, crash. So now we've got 8 bars, and all together the amen's sounding like this. Now, here's a little tip for you. You see how I've already got a MIDI clip here for the Hot Pants break, and it's 4 bars long. A really quick way of making that 8 bars long is highlight it along with this whole section, right? So you've got a section there of emptiness and the MIDI clip. Highlight it all together, Command and J. Now it's all one big MIDI clip, and when you double click in it, you'll see the first half is populated with notes and the second half isn't. So obviously it wasn't that quick because I was waffling, but if I would have just done it, it would have taken 500 milliseconds. So anyway, here's the Hot Pants. Suppose it's best to hear all the drums together so that I can try and make sure they go well together. Start from here. In fact, you know what? I was showing you how to join it all together, but actually I'm going to make this a separate MIDI clip. And it goes kick, shuffle, snare, shuffle, kick, shuffle, snare, shuffle. And then this one goes, I think, kick, kick, snare. It's pretty generic. And then the last one. Let's put this grid back to what it was. And then the last one. Kick, shuffle, shuffle. Alright, now we've got the full 8 bars. And let me duplicate the bass line. Now we've got a full 8 bars, okay? And I was saying in the last one, big variation. You just highlight these, and if you hold down shift and press the up arrow, then it puts it up 1 octave and it'll sound like this. All right. This bass. I mean, I'm not really sure if I'm kind of overpowering my microphone here, so I'll just bring it down a little bit on the master. How's that? I found in the past if I make it peak at -5, it should be roughly the same as my mic. And to be honest with you, I can't really turn up the mic because I'll end up peaking the stream, so I think it's best if I just turn the beat down a little bit. Anyway, what should we add next? You know, there's this section here on Ableton just called samples. So how about if I just spin the mouse wheel and then just click something? All right, not an 808. I'll spin the mouse wheel. Okay, a lot of these are just drum samples, but there is definitely samples in there that you can just like chop up and use, you know. Spin the mouse wheel, mallet guitar. So, you know, our tune's in F though, so I think it'd probably be a good idea to use mallet guitar F if there's one available. Alright, so we'll just use mallet guitar E and then I'll just pitch it to F. Instruments, simpler. And then go back to our little mallet guitar sample, which was randomly selected. I'm going to put that in. Sounds cheesy, but it might. Sometimes it's good to get inspiration by just like randomly getting a sound from somewhere. So anyway, what I'm actually going to do here is mallet guitar. I'm going to choose mallet guitar C. All right. Boom, boom, boom. You know, sometimes you just have to experiment a bit, so bear with me. This is like some sort of arpeggiator type thing, and it's really fast, and it sounds like this. It could just go just one time, you know, and then a longer one. There again. I mean, worth a try, innit? Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep it did-it. I'm just going to go did-it, and then, spoiler alert, there's going to be some delay involved. So if we go to audio effects, grab the delay. And by the way, if you are wondering how my audio effects are all just in alphabetical order, when they're usually in folders these days, if you right click and click group in folder, you're going to see that they're back how they were. You've got drive and color. You've got EQ and filters. Mine's been like that for ages, but today I figured out how to put it back how it used to be back in the day in Ableton, which was just one big long list of alphabetical effects. So you can choose whether you want them in folders or not. Anyway, did I put the delay on? So delay goes there. And I want it to go do-do-dit, do-do-dit. And then reverb. In fact, you know, I don't want it to get too played out, so I'll just have it once. All right, now, instruments. I'm going to use the electric piano and keys. There's all these different E-pianos. E-piano basic, for example. And then maybe in the last one it could just go up an octave. You know, shout out Mark Pearson. Yeah, it's like, it's a very cheesy sample and I had to do something to make it sound less plasticky. So I just hit it with the delay and the reverb and everything. And here's a way how you can quickly put effects from one track to another. If you just highlight it, hold down shift, click the next effect. Now we've got the delay and reverb selected. Drag those to the E piano and make sure before you let go you hold down the Alt button, and then there they are on the next instrument as well. So now you should find that the E piano sounds less cheesy as well. And I'm also going to get the EQ, put that there, and just roll off a load of the bass from the E piano. Just want this to be quite a low-lying sound, and maybe pan it to one side like that. Hopefully the stream's in stereo. I was showing you the other week an easy way to make reggae sounds. I've got this this sample pack from this guy called Andy Druddy, and he has basically sampled himself playing every note of reggae chords, right? So we've got A, B, C sharp major, all this stuff, you know. So if I go to the F minor section and drag that in and layer it with that E piano that I put there. And what I've kind of worked out over the years is that if you want to make some sort of reggae chords, the best thing to do is kind of mimic a reggae band, who they'd usually have a guitarist and a piano player and an organ player or something like that. All three of them are sort of going jink, jink together, and it builds it up, you know. So do that. Build up 3 layers of doing the same thing. And obviously I could get out my guitar and do this myself, but big up Andy Druddy because he's made the whole thing much easier. And then it's up to me whether I want to pitch this up by 12 semitones to try and do what the other one does. Probably sound cheesy as hell, but it's worth a try. Alright, so this is what my piano basic sounded like. And then if I hold down Command and press this solo button, now we've got them both soloed. And again, you know, Andy's sounding kind of cheesy, but if we just put some EQ and reverb and all the rest of on his guitar, then he should sound a bit more realistic. He's also going to be blended in really well with the other instruments, so you won't be able to tell that he's just like one sample. Alright, before I go any further, I'm just going to duplicate E piano basic, and I'm going to drag a real piano on there. Now, I do try and make everything within Ableton in these tutorials, but sometimes I just have to draw for the classics, and in my case, I really like Native Instruments Contact, and within Contact, you've got this one called The Gentleman. And I always choose the basic Gentleman, but you've got in a jazz club, in a pub, in the face. A lot of different ones, so let's choose in the face. This is what in the face sounds like. It's not that in your face really, but let's layer in your face with an E piano classic, and then Andy Druddy. So what I like to do is grab all 3 of those, you know, click one, hold shift, click the last one, Command and G, group them together, call it reggae. Reggae chords, you know. Crods. Call it reggae chords. Now what you can do is, instead of having effects on each individual one, or as well as, you can just put a load of effects on the actual group. So, for example, take this delay, put it on the group. And then you don't have to have delay on each individual one, you know. So if I just go through the others and make sure they've got no delay on them. No delay on there, no delay on there, no delay on there, because the delay is on the the group here. Alright, let's hear it all together. And it's just doing F, but obviously I could make it do F and C instead. Should we try F and C just to give it a bit more variation? So should it be C major or C minor? That's the question. All right, I'll get rid of Andy Druddy. And then I'll get rid of one of these and I'll edit the other one. So should it go up to C or down to C? That's the question. So should it be C major or... And then if I just get that MIDI clip, hold down Alt and drag it down. Oops. Try that again. Drag it down. That's put it to the contact as well. Now all we need to do is, I'll get rid of Andy from there as well. I'm going to get new Andy. In fact, let me just quickly paste this here. Go back to Andy. Where is he? And just choose the C minor. And it handily, thank you Andy, because he's given us the C minor skank low and the C minor skank. So there's exactly what we needed because I went down to C. So it should be there. And then if I just hold down Alt, drag it to there, also drag it to there, also drag it to there. Then I'm going to highlight this whole section, Command and C, and I'm going to paste it over here. So now let's take a listen to just Andy to make sure that I've got him going right, and then we'll listen to everything else. All right. So it's right, but if I look at if I go down here and check the F minor, that was at minus 6.3 dB. Remember that number. So I'm going to highlight these, go down here and choose, what? I'm going to highlight these, go down here and choose minus 6.3 dB. All right, and then we do have Andy at the end as well. So I'll highlight these, go down here, minus 6.3 dB. Now all the guitar chords are at the same volume, and it sounds like this. Now mixing in the real piano and the Rhodes piano. Now let's make sure it's in tune with the bass line. Not really. So it's difficult because I'll have to change everything to accommodate it, but just put everything to C. You know, it's kind of changed the whole vibe of the tune. But let me know what you think. And here it is with the drums. Big up, Josh. Thank you, man. I mean, it's like I say, I think it sounded a bit like more dirty and heavy before with the old notes, but I'm just going with the flow here, so we're turning it into, it's going down the reggae road basically, but it is what it is. So sometimes I just like to go digging and just drag any random stuff in. So here's this sample pack, which I honestly have not opened for possibly years. Blue Mar 10 free pack. So let's just have a listen what's in here. If there's something good, we'll use it. So we've got arps, bass, drums, music. Music is what we're looking for. Shout out Paul K, thank you for joining, and shout out Yosef. Thank you guys, I'm so happy you're here. Mark P's saying it sounds like it's gonna be a sad one. Yeah, totally. They're minor chords, so it's the minor chords are usually the ones that people use for making sad sounding tunes, so it totally makes sense. And you might have noticed that when the playhead is moving across this sample in the bottom left, it's like jumping, because these are Rex files, and it's something I've not really bothered with much myself, but a Rex file is basically a chopped up file. So sometimes when you get... No, Yosef, I guess you weren't here at the beginning, but the stream was originally how to chop up breaks. And what I would say is you should go, when this is over or some other time, you should go back and watch the beginning, because what I did is I got the Amen break, which, let me just show you what it sounds like to start with. If I go to jungle breaks, it sounds like this. So that's like a classic drum sample that loads of people use in jungle and have been doing since the inception of jungle. And before that, people were using it for hip hop in the late 80s. In fact, you may have heard of the NWA tune, Straight Outta Compton, and that was actually the Amen break. The drums for that were. So even in the late 80s, they were using it in rap tunes, they were using it in rave tunes, and then like out of acid house came breakbeat hardcore, and then a bit of both, Yosef. It's like a lot of jungle is chopped up breaks, definitely, but especially these days, people are kind of making their own breaks, and then maybe they're even making a break and then chopping it up, But anyway, in this one, I've basically demonstrated two different ways to chop up breaks. The first way was just slicing up the audio into these different little slices and then rearranging them into your own pattern. And I just played you what it sounds like, and it's funky, but it's kind of a straight beat, and then you listen to this. Obviously mine's a bit quieter there, but I've layered it with another break, and this is another method for chopping up breaks. This one is sliced to MIDI. So I brought the break into the project, a right click, slice to a new MIDI track, and then you can basically rearrange the slices, and I've renamed them all, and they sound like this. And then you just program in these little MIDI notes, and that also is another way of chopping up breaks. And then the hot pants on its own sounds like this. And then the two together. And by the way, there's this way that you can sort of tighten it up a bit. Now it sometimes sounds a little bit weird, but let me just put the volume back to 0. Now if I go to the hot pants break, which is the one that I sliced with MIDI, you can see that within the drum rack you've got this sustain knob. And if I play it and turn down the sustain, you're going to hear it change. So that like shortens each slice, and it makes it like, it sounds a bit weird on its own, but if you start layering breaks, sometimes it can make it sound more tidy. And another way is this. Watch this now. If I consolidate this all into one big audio audio clip, right? Now that's one big audio clip. Now if we put warping on and put it on beats, there's another way you can do this with audio. Now go to beats and then preserve transients, and then the 2 little arrows, just put it to the first one, which is an arrow pointing to the right into a line. And now using this control, listen to the amen now. Now obviously you have to be really careful not to just completely ruin your breaks and make them sound all jerky. But if used tastefully, especially when layering, those 2 techniques can actually help you out. And if you're wondering why I keep turning down the master, I'm basically trying to get it so that my voice and the tunes are roughly the same level. And I'm glad that you've learned something, Yosef. Stick around. And by the way, I don't know if you're subscribed to this channel, but I've been for almost a year now. I've been making these tutorials, and I was saying before, one of the big ones, one of the ones that was quite popular was like how to make 140 jungle breaks or something like that it was called. And I released that in September, and it got quite a lot of views, and that's kind of the way this channel's going now. It's just like 140. This is what I've been making, you know. For a long time I've been making this kind of music, so I just feel right at home. And sorry, Paul, I completely ignored your question because I didn't see it. The Tramen break, or is it the Tramen break? I haven't actually. I've heard of it. And is it the amen and the think break layered together? If it is, then I guess I've made my own. But I've never just like dragged in the Tramen break as a sample itself. But anyway, speaking of the think break, you know, if you guys are up for it, we should have a look at the think break as well. I've got time. So these tunes, they're originally all from like old school soul tunes, and usually involving James Brown in some way. And this one's a tune by Lynn Collins called Think About It. And you might notice that the sample is called Think All. And the reason why it's called All 5, if I turn off warping and just play you this, I'm just going to turn it down slightly. There's 5 different bits. Now 4 of them are actually break, and then the last one is a little shaker. So listen to this. And then that last bit. See, so the last bit's just like a shaker or a tambourine or something, which is really, really useful. And these other bits, they all have bits of vocal in, and usually when you hear it sped up, so if I just put this up to like +4, listen to it now. So you hear that, yeah, woo, that like sped up. You hear it in so many drum and bass tunes, and if any of you guys aren't familiar with the think break, then you'll probably be like, that's what that sound was. So This is in these different sections, and you can see there's gaps. So I'm just going to split it there. That's section 1. This is section 2. I'm just going to split it there. And then there's another section. And then this is section 4. You bad, sister. Then that might actually be James Brown himself, just chucking in some ad-libs. Yeah, there's a guy who, I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but it's something like Kaesger or Kaesger or something like that. Anyway, he made a video like, what's that weird sound that you hear in all liquid drum and bass tunes? And he made a video about the Think Break. It's really interesting. Anyway, what I'm doing here is, with each bit, and you can see it's almost on already, but if you just go in and tidy up the beginning, tidy up the end so that it ends where it ends, like that, and then turn on warping, put it to, I like to put it to complex, grab the end of it and hold down shift and then just put that on so it's on 1 bar, and it's easier if you put the grid to 1 bar. So it's like almost there already, but if you just put it on, now if we turn on the metronome and we press Command and L to loop this, so you hear that that one's on already now. So next one, tidy up the start and end point. That's the start. End point. And then make sure warping is turned on and on complex. Hold down shift, drag the end to the line, and then check it with the metronome. Next one. Hold down command and drag sideways, and then you'll see that it's not snapping to the grid anymore, so you can move it freely. And this one does contain this little thing at the end, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think we can actually get rid of that and just put it to there. Now just make sure warping is turned on. And then we'll just put the looper around it and just make sure that one's on beat. It's looping well. Next one, tidy up the start point and tidy up the end point, and then put it on beat, on grid, hold down shift, just drag that sideways. Oh, sorry, hang on. Make sure it's warped and it's on complex first. Now we're going to do it. And you can see that it was almost there, but it wasn't quite. So Command and L, loop that, and let's have a listen. All right, now we've got all those 4 parts of the Think Break all warped properly and put into their correct places, and it's in this sort of 4 bars section, right? I'm just going to press Command and J, and that consolidates it, and now it's all one clip. And I'm just going to quickly rename it as Think all 5 parts. Well, it's actually all 4 parts. Reason why it's all 4 is because you may remember that part 5 is actually this, which we may use at some point, but not right now. So with these 4 parts, what I'm going to do is right click, slice to a new MIDI track, make sure it's on 8th notes, and let's go. Now, because this is so long, this has actually done me 32 slices, and there's these 16 here, and then if I click here, it's the other 16. So it goes up to 32. Now, I was saying at the beginning of the stream that these slices are automatically looped, and I have no idea why. And I was watching another guy's stream, so shout out this guy, UK Breaks Tutorials, I think he's called. He was making a very similar live stream to me, and he was saying in his, like, he chopped up a break, and he's like, I have no idea why this is on looping, so when you press one of the slices, it loops it. Now, what use is that to anyone? Anyway, turn down loop length to 0 to sort that out, and now I'm just going to, you know what? Oh, big up Paul, you're doing your research. So you're saying, apparently the Traymen or Tramen is 3 breaks. That's Alex Reese's remix of Model 500's The Flow, James Brown Tighten Up, and the Amen Break all together. Big up Paul, nice one for that. So when you slice something to a new MIDI track, it goes into, it creates a MIDI clip for you, and it just puts one slice on each thingy. You know, each 8th note, it gets one slice on there. So with a bit of luck, this will actually just play like it did. So it's playing well, and if you don't mind just bearing with me for a moment, what we're going to do is go through each slice really quickly and make sure there's no clicks, no dodgy start or end points where it's, I mean, what's this one? That's a prime example, because it's not only it's starting late, but it's finishing late as well. Where it's finishing, you can see it's bringing in the next slice, so it all needs to be brought to the left a bit. And same thing here. So some of these are dodgy as hell. In fact, one thing that you can do is you can actually warp the break using, you know, when it's still an audio clip, using the warp markers, you can actually tidy it up there. And then when you slice it up, there's less of this to do. But this is a prime example of what I'm on about. Look, it finished too late and it's bringing in the next slice. And you don't want that, so just bring it to the left. Make sure there's no click at the start or the end of the slice. Now, doing this can actually mess with the swing of the break, so you have to be really careful. And there's possibility that after I've done this, I might need to do more adjustments to make it sound good. But that's just the nature of the game. It's worth it when you've got a nicely sliced up break. And you know, on these tutorials and these streams, I've showed this a million times, but what you can actually do is, once you've finished slicing it up, there's a little tiny save icon here which looks like an old school floppy disk. And if you hit that and then just call this sliced think break or whatever, you'll never have to do it again. You just go to your drum rack presets and it's in there, and then you just drag it in and you've got the think break perfectly sliced and ready to go. And if you do that with the Amen and you do that with the hot pants, you'll find that whenever you want to start a new jungle tune, you can get it going really quickly. In fact, you can also, I was shown, I don't know if any of you guys were watching last week, but I was making the so-called ultimate drum and bass drum rack. If you didn't watch it, the game, I just lost the game. If you didn't watch last week's one, basically the ultimate drum and bass drum rack was not only a drum rack full of D&B kicks and snares and everything, but it's also, it contained some effects after it. So let me just show you what I mean. Here we've got the think break, right? All sliced up in the drum rack. And I might want to put some effects after it. So for example, you might want to get the glue compressor, put that after it, and dial it in. Then you might want to get the saturator, put that after it, dial it in. Or whatever, you know, this is just a demonstration. And then what else might you want to put on it? One thing I like to put these days is Air Windows to Tape 8. Now this is a free tape saturation plugin which I've been adding to my drums recently, and there's a lot of features that it has that emulate tape decks, and some of them I like to turn them off. Others I like to keep, like tilt and bias. I don't touch them, but the main thing is just crank up the input and then put the output accordingly, and it gives you a tape saturated sound. Anyway, the point of all this is, what you can do is hold down click the drum rack, hold down shift, click the last effect so everything's selected, and then hold and press Command and G. Right, now that has all been grouped together as one big thing, including the drum rack and all the effects. Now you can click the little save icon in the bottom left here, which is the instrument rack. Now this instrument plus effects all together is called the instrument rack. If you press the save button there, you can call this Think Breake plus FX. Alright, now anytime I want to use the Think Breake now, I can drag that in, and not only I've got the Think Breake perfectly sliced, but it also includes the glue compressor, the saturator, and to tape 8, which is the tape emulation. So do that with all your breaks. Do it with the Amen, do it with the Hot Pants, do it with any other break that you might want to use. Get them all saved as instrument racks, and it will just speed things up so much next time you want to make a jungle tune. Anyway, let's have a listen to what we were making before. Oh, Mark Pearson, you've made various people lose the game. Wait. That's not right. Was it B? Summertime vibes. It's difficult to put your finger on it because Mark Pearson was saying before that it's got a sad vibe to it, but it's also, you are correct to point out that it's got a summertime vibe as well. Maybe sad in the summer. Alright, so, you know, it's time to build on this, and well, I have chopped up the Think Breake, so I think it'd be a good idea to put that in it. In fact, what I could do is just duplicate everything, and then for this other section, it could be same again, but one of the breaks disappears. I mean, what am I going to do? I could get rid of the Amen, and then just have the Think Breake coming in there instead. So what I like to do is delete everything and just go again. So and sometimes it's good to use the little high-pitched guy, and then sometimes it's good to not use him, and then you can switch it up. No, sorry. Why am I using the first 8 slices when we've got 32 to play with? Lock up. I have no idea what he says, but we'll go with that one. Feel free to let me know what he says. I know the first one is just yeah, woo. The second one, he just goes lock up. So what do you think he says? This one here, wait. Is it here? Wait. No, here. That one. Black up. Maybe it should do it like a. We'll just have the same again. Hang on, so there's a double kick that that probably should be. It's just gonna go yeah, yeah. Now here. Not really sure about the yeep at the end. The think break's amazing, you know. You can decide to totally chop out the little vocal bits, or you can decide to use them and just ham them up and everything. This goes boom to gut. This goes. Let's put this on 8th notes. It goes kick, shuffle, shuffle, snare. It's annoying me how it keeps going back to the beginning, so let's just listen to this last bit. Kick, shuffle, shuffle. I know why it's doing that, so kick, shuffle, shuffle. Because it's got that crash on the amen. I was programming the hot pants along with the amen. Now it's missing. It just sounds weird. that an organ or something? Organ angry? Actually, you know what? I think there needs to be a pad in this at some point, so let's just go with that next. Sometimes I like to use the simpler, and there's some pads in here. Or otherwise, you can just go to your where your samples are and type in pad, and then in some of these there might be a pad in here that works. I am conscious of the fact that I'm streaming live and basically you're just listening to me go through tons of samples, but in one of them I used these Reuben pad. This was pretty good. Oh, you legend. Ephemeral. Is that how you say it? Ephemeral. What did you put? Bronto pad. Is it in just straight up instruments? I'm not sure if I've got that one, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, especially in these live streams, do you know why? Because I know that you guys have Ableton. So if you want to follow along, then I know that you can do the majority of this stuff. I mean, so far in this, all you've needed is a couple of breaks and the 808, and then you can just, I mean, I suppose you didn't have the Andy Druddy guitar parts, but you get what I mean. Like, you've got the majority of the sounds that I'm using, and therefore you can follow along if you want. Try it in your own time. Anyway, let's just try. That one's kind of dark. Reuben pad C4. It's like ephemeral. Ephemeral. Doesn't come up. Is it there if you select all results? What is it? Bronto. Bear in mind, I'm still using Ableton 11, so maybe that one came with Live 12. There's nothing there, mate, so... But it's alright, we're going to go with Reuben. But cheers for the heads up. And that said C, but I'm kind of layering it with an F. Yeah, I selected all results, and unfortunately it didn't come up, but... Actually, you see how that's sounding really deep? Perhaps instead of C4, I should try if there's a C5. Reuben pads 4. Wow, Reuben. Is that literally the highest one you've got? Alright, whatever. How about if we pitch it up by 12? And then... I'm going to pitch this one up by 7. And what I'm going to do here is just like add loads of effects to it. And maybe there could be some fading in and out with these, for example. If I crossfade them like that, could sound good. And then grab a bit. This is a ghetto way of doing it, but if it works, it works. Just crossfading bits into each other. Let's make sure this actually works with the rest of the music, but first, let me put on an EQ8 and take out some of the low end from that pad. Just as I suspected, sometimes a sound that you don't suspect it, and then look at the low end. Creeping in there in the sub-bass region like a cheeky bugger. Now you might think this sounds kind of whack. It's only supposed to be layered in there really low, that's why. And let me get the reverb. In fact, you know what? I've not been using much hybrid reverb this time, so let me chuck in the hybrid reverb. And I'll put it on a plate, 2 point something seconds long. And then I'm going to get the delay, put that before the reverb. I usually like to put my delays before the reverb. Ping pong, so it goes a bit stereo. Sometimes it's good to put choruses on things, so to put that there. All right. You know what I've done here, don't you? This was supposed to be that long, and then it's supposed to loop. And then it's supposed to crossfade. Big up, Paul. I used to use Cubase back in the day. I had a PC called a HP Pavilion, which I found on the street here in Barcelona. And then I got a cracked copy of Cubase on a CD-ROM, and I installed it in there. And then I used to make beats just by beatboxing and playing the guitar. And that was literally the first computer / DAW that I owned. Well, I'd had a little dabble in Reason on a friend's computer, and I used to have a dodgy old iMac that I put a really old version of Ableton Live on there. But back in those days, I looked at Ableton Live and I was like, I don't understand this at all. I just couldn't get my head around it. And then I had that whole era where I was using the dodgy computer off the street with Cubase, and I was just kind of using it as a multi-track recorder. I wasn't really programming in anything. And then in 2008, I got myself a laptop, a Dell laptop for 500 quid. And I put Ableton Live on there, and that was it. Ever since then, I've just been using it and making beats on it. So it's been, what is it? It's been like 16, 17 years now. I've just been using Ableton straight. And I don't usually do disclaimer. I don't usually do this with my pads where I'm like copying it and then doing a little crossfades, but it's working. This has all gone pear-shaped now, actually. The bits aren't long enough. I'm just gonna, you know what, it's just gonna loop like that. Comes with the long attack again. Yes, Paul. It's worth subscribing to this channel because soon I'm going to be doing a lot of things that are not even Ableton based. Like, for example, I've got the Vital synth, and I'm going to be doing some tutorials on how to make all different D&B bass sounds and jungle bass sounds in Vital. And when you're using something like that, it doesn't even matter which DAW you're using it in. So if you're interested in learning how to use Vital Synth, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hey. So you might notice I've got two groups, breaks and bass, and now I've got all this other stuff. And actually reggae chords is a group, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this thing can go actually. I'm going to group all the rest of these things together, and this is the group that I usually just call Instrum, which stands for instruments. Now, when it comes to making tunes, I usually have these three groups, plus if there's a singer or a rapper on the tune, then I'll have another one called vocal, and there's usually just four groups. Yeah, Ableton is really simplistic, and the reason why it confused me at first is because I'd actually been using Reason on a friend's computer in England, and I learned how to use that, which obviously, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it looks like real racks of equipment. And then you can even flip it round, and then you can see the back of the rack, and there's all these inputs and outputs where you can route the cables. You can have these virtual cables running between different things. And now when I look back, it was ridiculous that I found that simpler and easier to understand. But it's just with Ableton, it's like, how do I route that into that? And the answer obviously was, it just goes from left to right, you know? So you've got your instrument, to the right of it, you've got an effect. To the right of that, you've got an effect. To the right of that, you've got an effect. And obviously, if you want to change the routing so that it goes saturator into glue compressor, all you have to do is drag that to before that, and it just goes from left to right. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever used Reason, but it's insane. It was a different era. And I guess maybe it was designed like that because guys were still using studios full of racks of equipment. And for those people to understand how to make beats on a computer, maybe they just found it easier to plug in virtual cables from one thing to the next. But looking back, I mean, obviously this is just way simpler. Right, let me turn off the MIDI computer MIDI keyboard, and I want to show you something. Now if we go into automation mode, the great thing is with automation mode, any control that you click will be automatable. So for example, this frequency knob, if I click it here, sorry, this is a filter frequency, right? Click it, and then here you can see wavetable filter frequency 1. So now that is automatable, if that's even a word, and it means that you can draw in this red line and change the filter frequency. Now we've already got that filter frequency moving because of the LFO, but one thing I wanted to automate is this rate here. Now I've never actually done this in the wavetable, but I used to do it back in the dubstep era, and I used to always automate my wobbles to change speed. So one thing I thought, it could go duh-duh-duh-duh-duh. So if it just goes for a little split second there, it could go faster. So you draw in these little steps where it goes up and down. So no, so not that much, you know, but it could go to 1/12. So it just needs to be to there. So I just wanted it to go duh-duh-duh-duh-duh. Maybe even less, like that. Just adds a bit of variety, you know what I mean? And sometimes when you're doing that, it's good to have it as a different note. For example, the wubba could be a different note, just like that. You know what I mean? Or it could go so that would be a 16th, no? It's all about trial and error when it comes to this stuff. You just try it. If it sounds good, keep it. If not, now I feel like that's done its fast bit, and then maybe it should do a slower bit now. Maybe it could go to 1/6 of a note. You know, try a 3/16. You know, you can let me know whether you think that sounds actually like it's in time and good, or whether it's just a bit dodge. You get the point though. The thing I'm trying to teach you here is how to automate the rate of the wobble. Alright, so all you do, just to recap, you click the control that you want to automate, which in this case is the rate. It's going to come up with the red line, and it's going to say wavetable LFO S rate, and then you just draw in these bits that go up and down, and you can see it's 1/8, 3/16, etc, etc, and that's just making the wobble go faster and slower. And I don't know if you guys were here for the earlier part of the stream, but I was also saying that this thing here, which is on the wavetable synth, you've got the basic shapes, and it ranges from a sine wave all the way up to a square wave and everything in between, which is a triangle and a sawtooth wave, right? And I've kind of left it on here. But one thing you can do is you can use the LFO to also modulate the position of this. So if I just show you that again, if I just bring this up a bit, now watch this triangle wave here. And obviously that's a lot, but if you just do it subtly, like this, could have a good effect. Yosef, honestly, mate, I have this folder called production, And within this production folder is all these other folders, which a lot of them are just samples. And these samples have been with me since, before I was talking about getting the Dell laptop in 2008. Honestly, this Breakbeat Paradise one, I copied that onto that laptop, and then when I got my first MacBook Pro, I copied it onto there, and now I've copied it onto this one. It just stays with me, and I just keep using it. And there's all these other ones. This is like, not all of them got copied across, so this isn't all of my samples. I just brought these ones over and just used them over and over again. Music Radar Rave sample. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Music Radar. I think it was a magazine back in the day, and this will have been like when you used to get a CD on the front of a magazine. This will have been one of them. There's also the Computer Music was another magazine. A lot of these samples come from these sample CDs that were on the front of a magazine. This one I like to use, Zion Train Dub Drums. So you've got live drums session 1, session 2, and then within them RIP to the magazines, because it's really sad that they're not going to print them anymore, but it's completely understandable. I mean, when's the last time you bought one? I used to buy them in the airport when I was about to fly. When you go in W.H. Smith in the airport and they've got all the magazines, and I used to just get a copy and read it on the plane. But I don't even do that anymore, so yeah, I do download new ones. For example, this Jekyll and Hyde, I downloaded that last year before I started doing these tutorials, and I've used it loads. This is what I was on about. Future Music CD1. I think this is an absolute classic of like rave sounds. I mean, when it comes to making old school music, then it's fine to keep using old school sounds. Obviously, if you want to make something that sounds a bit more modern, then you'd probably be better off getting some new school sounds. This one, for example, Stranger. Big up Stranger. You must have heard of him. He's basically a drum and bass and jungle YouTuber with over 100,000 subscribers, and he gave out the free breaks, so you can have a look in there. And a lot of them, again, I mean, they're new to me, but actually they are the same old, Amen, Apache, Cold Sweat. All the classics are in there, so if you ever want to know where you can get some breaks from, one thing you can do is just check out Stranger's YouTube channel and check out the description underneath his videos, and you probably find a link to some free sample packs and also some ones that you can buy. No, I haven't got that MYOR break sample pack. The one I've been using for years, it's just called Jungle Breaks, and it's got all the classics in there in WAV quality, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, some of the ones that Stranger provided, they have a bit of reverb on them. Like, for example, if I find the, what's it called? The Think Break from Stranger. I don't know if you can hear that, but Stranger's put reverb on this Think Break, which is all well and good, it might sound good, but I prefer to just use the raw Think Break and put my own reverb on there, But it's good that he's separated the Think Shaker for you. And as far as I can tell, that one doesn't have the reverb on. Breakcore is not a good way to get laid. Fair enough, It's a funny name for the sample pack. And how are the breaks that are in that? Are they all like super speeded up and ready to make breakcore with, or are they just like the raw samples? I want this one to go wah, 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 and then it just stops. So it just gives it some variety. Ah, you know what it could do? It could go wah, 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 wow, and then it does one big wow at the end. All right, so let me go to the LFO and this rate, and do you remember what we were doing here? Wow, here. Halfway through this bit here, it should just go wow, which could be a third. No, even less. A half. Ah, that was it. Now listen to this. This one now. You know what we should do? We should do a sample trade. One thing in terms of drawing in automation, I don't know if you guys know how to do the curve, but for the guys that don't know how to do the curve, all you do is draw one dot, draw another dot. Actually, you might want to do something like that. And then let's say you wanted to make this line curved. If you hold down the Alt button and then do that, drag it up or down, you can make a curve like that. So basic tip, but if anyone didn't know that one, that's how you make them curved. Definitely useful. Another one, you can duplicate. Did you know that you can copy, paste, and duplicate automation without actually copying and pasting the clips that they're on? It never used to be like that for the old school heads. This separate automation page is fairly new. So it used to be that you'd just copy and paste these clips and then the automation would go with them. But now you just press A and you're in this automation mode, and then you can just duplicate that, and it duplicates it without even taking the audio or the MIDI with it. So that's something that's changed within Ableton. Anyway, at some point I was like, let's add an organ, and then I just completely forgot about it. Doesn't sound like a good organ, though. Let's go into instruments and type in organ. And it's a simple tip, but I would recommend you guys get into typing things into the search. And it sounds ridiculous, but if you have, I mean, you saw how many folders are in here, and this is not trying to flex or anything, but there's like quite a few samples here. Because even that Breakbeat Paradise one, when you open it up, there's loads of different stuff in there, you know. So to be able to search through it all and make it a bit easier for yourself, like if you type in pad, now only the folders that contain pads are left. Any folder that has no pads in it has been eliminated from the search. So then you just open it up and you see paddy. So get into the habit of looking for things just by typing it in. Like I'll type in organ, and let's see if I've got any organ samples. Novation Heritage Sound Pack. I literally have never used anything from this folder. Get a Juno. I've never owned a hardware synth, and I would love to one day, but there's a couple of reasons why I won't right now, and it's to do with the space, mainly to do with the space in my house. You know, this place is so small. There's barely enough room for me to even have my little production set up in here. So I won't be filling the place full of racks of synths, but at some point in the future I'll be in a bigger place and I'll have a proper studio, and I probably will get a Juno or some kind of proper synth. Oh, Paul. You know, I want to demonstrate this, but it's going to be a bit of a tough one. Paul, are you using PC or a Mac? Because I'm not sure if it's the same with a PC, but on a Mac there's this amazing thing called Black Hole. And there used to be another one called Soundflower, and they're both very similar. And what it is, it's a virtual audio interface. So what you do is, can you see this up here? Right, if I go to my sound settings here, and you can see that you've got MacBook Pro speakers, you've got the sound card that I'm using, and then one of them's called Black Hole 2 channel. All right, so you're using the PC now. There must be, if there's not a Black Hole for the PC, then there'll be something similar. Now, you select, what you do is you go on to your sound source. For example, it could be Spotify, it could be SoundCloud, it could be anything on the internet that creates a sound. And instead of outputting to your normal audio interface, you click here and click Black Hole 2 channel. Now, I'm not going to do it now because I feel like it could mess up the stream. But then what you do is you go into your audio software of choice and go into configure audio, and here where it says input device, you can see that Black Hole 2 channel is also available there as an audio interface that you can record into, or record from, should be the correct one. So then what you do is create a new audio track here, and in your inputs and outputs you're going to see Black Hole 2 channel. And then all you need to do is arm that track and record, and you'll be recording directly from whatever web page you're on. All right, so I used to use these dodgy websites where you can download videos and change it into an MP3 and then put it in, but I don't do that anymore because it's just much easier to route the audio through Black Hole straight into Ableton and record it that way. And another way, I don't know if you're using Android or an iPhone, but again, if you happen to be using an iPhone, and I'm sure it's very similar on the iPhone, on the Android, what you can do is screen record and then play whatever it is you want to sample. Make a screen recording of it, and then you can airdrop the screen recording to yourself and put it straight into Ableton, and it works as an audio file. So those two methods are my main sampling techniques for getting things off the internet these days. Yes, Paul. The screen recording technique's tried and tested. It works, so, you know, if it ain't broke. I'm just stalling because I don't want you to see my dodgy keyboard skills on this organ. No, I'm joking. All right, so instruments. Let's see if we can find a better one though. I mean, or house organ could be better. Get Black Hole. You know, it used to be the one. There was one called Soundflower. That was the original one, and that was back in the early 2000s. I was doing that with Soundflower, but it was a bit more of a fiddle. And I found it's like I forgot about it, or I just didn't use it for years because I was like, that's just a faff. And then when I went to get it again, I got Black Hole, and the thing that's good about Black Hole is you see how it just says 2 channel. Black Hole 2 channel. That's what you want, because Soundflower was some complex thing where you can choose 32 different channels and route audio all over the place, and all you need is one stereo pair. You know what I mean? That was sounding like one of my first ever dubstep tunes. Maybe I should, just as homage. It just went. So it's actually even shorter than that. It's like. Oops. And then we're going to go for rather predictably. Oops. All right. And then obviously again. So it goes like this. Right, let me just mute a couple of these. Again, I feel like it's a cheesy tune. Sorry, a cheesy sound, which could possibly can't get my words out. It's a very cheesy sound, which could sound a lot less cheesy if I put some reverb and other stuff on it. Thank you guys for watching, by the way, and big up Tara Bass. Thanks for staying up past your bedtime and watching this, because, you know, I was saying before, sometimes when I start the stream, and I just feel like I'm talking to myself, you know, and then it's when I see people popping up in the chat and like reassuring me that there's actually some people here, it's so much better. If any of you guys have just found this channel, make sure you subscribe and click the like button, and that should spread the stream to more people. And obviously, if you are someone who produces in Ableton Live, this channel is going to be of a lot of value to you. If you're someone who likes breaks music, jungle music, drum and bass, then there's already about 12 different tutorials on here. And the next one... Paul, you're not going to be happy until there's gunshots in this, so I might as well just put them in now. Let's have a look. I'll just type in gun and see what we've got. How's that? The click click before the drop. It's bloody loud. Look at that. They've just maxed it out. Sorry if I just deafened anybody. See, there's a little gap before it, that's why. And I don't think it should be warped. And I think it should have a bit of delay on it, like everything else. So it goes... And did you guys... Hey, Paul, if you like gunshots, you should hear the one... There was one tutorial I did where there was a guy on the news, and he's a Jamaican guy who lives in America. And he's like talking about how he was asleep in his van, and then some guy came up with an AK-47, and he's like, basically what he does is he wakes up and he's got his own gun, but he's just got a little Glock, and he's like, "I'ma lick him with this one," and I empty the Glock in his chest. And that was my how to make jungle tutorial, so you should check it out. It's a funny sample. How about a click click here? You know, it could all cut out. So the drums should cut out here. One click click bang, you know what I mean? And then the gunshot there. In fact, you know what I'll do? Here's what I like to do. If I want to have different effects on different parts of the sound, it's just literally a case of Command and D to duplicate it, and then delete that one from there and delete that one from there, and now you've got the click click and the bang on two separate channels instantly. And then that way, if I don't want the click click to have a load of delay on it, it's just dry. And then the gunshot, I just get the delay and whatever other effects you want to put on it. Should it be on a fourth? A fourth, I always say that, it's a quarter. And it always annoys me when people say fourth, so I don't know why I'm saying it myself now. And obviously adjust the dry and wet to taste. Oh man, I am so terrible at pronouncing names, but big up Guri Zuri if that's your name. Tell me how to say it, but I'm happy to hear that my tutorials are spreading far and wide as far as Rhode Island, USA. You know, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. This channel, yeah, I've actually had this YouTube channel for 12 years, but for the first 11 years, I barely posted anything on here. And if I did, then it'd just be like a DJ mix that got about 100 views or something, you know? So in May, I posted my first tutorial and it did well. It got like over 1,000 views relatively quickly, and it gave me the motivation to do another one. Then I did some more ones, and the others didn't do quite as well. And then I took a big break in the summer. I went back to England, had some time with my family, and all the rest of it. And during that time, I'd already recorded the 140 Breaks tune tutorial. Right, I had it sitting on my hard drive, ready to edit, but I was like thinking, this isn't good enough, you know, it needs to be better if I'm going to actually get some views and get some people watching and that, you know. So big up Paul. I'm from Macclesfield, just down the road. So I was over visiting, and when I got back, I was like, fuck it, I'll just edit that one. I've already recorded it, I might as well edit it and put it online. That was in September, and then like I say, within a very short space of time, it got to like probably 8,000 views within like 2 weeks. And I was like, whoa. And that's when I knew I'm on the right path and I should continue making these tutorials, you know? So it's like, have you ever seen that little meme where there's the guy who's, he's trying to dig for diamonds and he's almost there. And it shows that he sort of gives up and walks the other way. When he was almost about to strike diamonds, you know what I mean? Anyway, so the channel's going well, and I'm very close to being able to monetize this channel and actually make some money, but there's a couple of requirements that you need to hit, and one of them was 1,000 subscribers, which I got to in October. So thank you to everybody who's subscribed. I really, really appreciate it. However, there is another requirement, which is to have 4,000 hours of watch time. And I'm on like 2,800. So there's still ages left to go until I can actually monetize this. And obviously, needless to say, I'm not in it for the money, because I'm sitting here teaching you guys how to to chop up breaks and stuff, and as you can see, I love it and I've been doing it for years and stuff, but it would be nice to receive some compensation. And eventually one day I want to just do this as a job. Right now I'm teaching English, and I do teach some music production lessons. And by the way, if any of you guys are interested in tuition live over Zoom and that, then all you have to do is send me an email to grace@icloud.com and we can make it happen. But right now I'm teaching and stuff, and I'm just loving making these tutorial videos, and hopefully within about a year I'll actually be doing this as my job. So have a listen to this. Love that, the gunshot, and then it changes to the think break. Come on. Big up Paul for the suggestion. You know, actually, there's a. I said you need to get to 4,000 watch time hours, but there is actually one milestone before that, which is 3,000 watch time hours, and then you can turn on like the super chats and you can have channel membership and all the rest of it. And then once you've got that, then you need one more 1,000 hours watch time, then you can get the ad revenue, you know what I mean? So bit by bit, and needless to say, doing a live stream that goes on for like 3 hours is a good way to get some watch time. So you know, before I was saying if you duplicate a layer and then you can delete bits from one and delete bits from the other, and then you've got them separated, right? So what about this? If I duplicate the wavetable layer and then do that kind of a pattern, and then you can make it alternate between this one and this one. Now all I need to do is completely change the second one, and then it's going to alternate between this and that. So what should we do to change this one? How about this? Maybe the click in complete silence. All right. Or it could be, yeah, so there's the reggae thing does one and it doesn't do the second one. I love this, you know, Tara. I was saying before, I don't know if you were here, that like I want to turn this into an interactive stream where everybody can make little suggestions and we build up the tune together. Honestly, I've wanted to do that for years, and tonight it's finally happening, so I'm very happy. So it could, what do you mean that even the bass line cuts out? It goes wub 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 and then just cuts out there. I also sampled this woman from Jamaica called Rosie, who was going mad about her house flooding out, and I used a gunshot in that one as well. And I was joking, saying that I actually what's it called? Censored myself on the tutorial because I'm very paranoid about, you know, once the channel does get monetized, then they might be like, oh, you can't make any money off that video because you just talked about someone going on a rampage, etc. I'm even careful not to say it on the stream. I think I've only sworn once on this stream so far. I think it's a good habit to get into, of not swearing on these videos and stuff, because imagine that if you put loads of effort into making a video and editing it, and hours and hours have gone into it, and then they just say, oh, sorry, you can't monetize this one because you swore. Yes, Tara. It definitely needed to be silent. Anyway, the wavetable has now been split into two different sections. And the idea was, here within the wavetable synth, and by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but you can like pop this up and then you get way more view of everything. So the wavetable synth works on different waveforms, as the name suggests. And here you've got different folders full of waveforms, including collection, complex, distortion. And then within each one, you've got all these different ones. So there's like almost endless amounts of waveforms to choose from. So, for example, distortion freak sounds like this. Wait. Hey. There you go. So they sound mismatched, obviously, because one of them's way more chilled than the other. This one. You know, that's more of a, what would you call it, like a neurofunk type bass. But where it's doing this filter automation, or sorry, modulation with the frequency, what you can do is turn this right down so it's very subtle, and then turn this down so it goes like this. You know what I mean? And maybe you like the neurofunk one better, but it didn't really fit the track in my opinion. Alright, neither does this. But you get the point. Anyway, let's try some others. Harmonics. Look at that. It's beautiful. Look at all those harmonics. Alright, let me put the filter frequency modulation back up. Alright, that kind of works. You know, I've just figured out what I need to do. That goes up there and that goes down there. So when it goes to the think break part and there's the gunshot, then we're into this sort of slightly more aggressive bass. Know what I mean? Haha. And the thing is that, you know, I was saying before about the black hole technique to sample stuff. The thing is that I'm a little bit worried that if I start changing stuff with audio interfaces, the stream's just going to go quiet and I'm going to ruin everything. Because I am tempted to just go on the internet now and find some vocal sample to go before the drop and all the rest of it. Yeah, this one, I changed it, you know. The one that you said sounded too DMB-ish was before. It was called Freak or something, but I changed it to harmonics. And then you can move this up and down. So. Oh yeah, this is the one. All right. Oh. Know what I mean? So it just, I mean, I wonder if I should just draw in this automation instead of making the LFO do it. Because I loved that, how I was like slowly pulling it down. It was like, wah, 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 wah. So sick. The wavetable synth was like, back in the days, I sound like such an old man when I say this, but when I first started using Ableton, it didn't have a built-in synth that was good enough to make wobbles and stuff like that. I used to use, actually sometimes I used to just get like, it was a similar thing because I was using one cycle of a waveform within the simpler and then just looping it and then playing it and then doing all the wobbles with it. But yeah, I guess that was kind of similar to a wavetable synth. But since they added this, look at this. It's so powerful. You can make any sound in this now. So you don't really need, like, people used to use Massive back then. That Massive was like the go-to soft synth for doing wobbles and stuff. You don't need Massive anymore. In fact, you don't even really need, maybe this is controversial, but everyone loves Serum these days. And I would argue that a lot of the things you can do in Serum, you can do in this as well. But I'm sure it's got some benefits. Otherwise, why would anyone bother to use the wavetable? You know what I mean? Actually, that'll be one of my videos. One of my upcoming videos is going to be like 10 dirty bass sounds within the wavetable synth, and I'll cover like the Reese bass, wobble bass, all the different classics, and obviously how to make your own 808 as well. You know, Paul, I do fully suggest that you get Ableton, and it's no diss to Cubase though. Cubase is an amazing software, and needless to say, countless classics in all sorts of different genres have been made in Cubase. And I met Klute. I don't know if you've ever heard of Klute, Klute. He is like one of the original guys that was making what we call liquid these days. But I think when he was making it back in the mid-2000s, it wasn't even called that yet. But Clute's definitely a Cubase user. So they're all quite similar these days. It's like whenever one company adds new features, the others have to catch up, and they all end up being quite similar to each other. The click should be on beat. Let's have a listen with the metronome. I think like maybe the first one is and the second one isn't. No, neither of them are. Well, the first one, as you can see with the click, is actually a collection of sounds. They're all the different parts of the gun moving about. But perhaps you mean that the main loudest bit should be on beat. So let's try that. And what I'm doing, by the way, everybody, is I am thank you so much for tuning in, man. Have a good sleep, and if you want to, you could. This stream will be there to watch back another time. What was I going to say then? Chop it up, yeah. That's exactly what I was about to do. So let me put the grid on a bit more so you can see where stuff is. And like I was saying, each one of these clicks is actually a collection of little sounds, and then the last one is the loudest one. So we could try it with the last loudest sound being on the grid. Like that. So let's have a look. Yeah, that's better. So I'm just going to copy and paste both of these sections now. So here's a tip for the Ableton users. Command, Shift and duplicate, which is D. Command, Shift and D, right? That duplicates everything, including the timeline, if you know what I mean. So that's, if I get rid of the bit of gunshot there, then what we've got now is that's double the length. And then I'll do the same with the second half. Shift, Command and D. It duplicates it. It's difficult to describe what it does, but it duplicates it with the timing as well. So you saw when I did the first one, we already had a load of music there, but what it did is move that along and made space for the new bit. Anyway, I hope you catch what I'm going on about. And this one now, I think I don't need this gap here. So is it possible to just drag these back? That's pretty good, just the bass cuts out. And maybe this, it's clear that I need to make some new instruments. Or maybe this should go. No, what needed to go was this. That was the first thing I added. I don't know if you guys were here before. The first thing I added, I just like went for the wheel of fortune. I just spun the scroll wheel of the mouse and landed on a random sample, and the sample was this mallet guitar, and it sounds like this. And then I just put in these 3 little quick notes. Made it sound more like a video game or something, which is mad because it's like you can transform some cheesy guitar sample into something that sounds totally electronic. Yeah, that's what I'll do. The cheesy organ. The organ can be deleted from the first bit. And then it will be in the second bit after the video game / guitar has disappeared. So you can see, have a look at this organ house and just look at the dynamic range between the quietest note and loudest note, and just look on this fader here. Oops. Or maybe I'm tripping. I just thought certain notes were much louder. But either way, I'm still going to add a compressor to it. So, let's have a look. Look, yeah, so it's not exactly even, is it? So you've got some notes that are peaking way louder than the others, and this is a good time to use the compressor. And I don't think there should be this much delay on it either. In fact, could just ditch the delay. Anyway, this is how it's all sounding now. I don't know how long you guys have been around for, but at the probably about an hour ago or an hour and a half ago, when I was chopping up the Think Break, I did mention that I was going to talk more about the last bit of the Think Break, which is the shaker thing at the end. So if I just go into Jungle Breaks and grab the Think again. Where is it? All right, so I've actually got a separated folder called Fav, and that is the best breaks. So here's the Think again. Gunshot is too late. It's on beat though, you know, so let's have a listen. Do you think it should come before everything else? Maybe it's because of that. You see that first bit there? Tara, do you think I should like trim off the beginning like that and then move it to there? Well, I've already done it now, so let's have a listen. Yeah, that's probably it. Anyway. This is so cool that we can like collaborate on a tune, and everyone, if anyone else who's like lurking and not really commenting, feel free to chime in and just tell me what you think we should do with the tune. And I'll probably do what you say if it's a good suggestion. All right, so what I like to do is, like, for example, it could start there. Let me just turn off the grid a sec. Just chop it there with Command and E and ditch that bit. Now I'm going to put the grid back on and just put that to there, and then we're going to count 4. And then by my calculations, right here is where it would loop. So just Command and E that and get rid of the last bit. So hopefully I should just have this 4 times, you know. So next thing I'm going to do is just make sure warping is turned on and it's on complex, and then just drag this so that it's on the thingy. And you might think I'm a madman for always turning the grid on and off again, but this is how it sounds with the metronome. That ain't right. Yeah, I think it goes to there and then put that on the thingy. Let's loop it. So, needs just a little bit of tinkering. Now, what I like to do with this is get the EQ8 and just look at this. Now, this is quite this is like a lesson in itself. Now, you listen to the Think Break, and what kind of sound do you think it is? It's very high pitched, right? It's like is right up there. Now look at the frequencies that are within it though, and you'll notice that the part that we were talking about, which is above 1K, is all there. And then there's something missing in the mid-range, but then from here there's all this sub-bass information within the shaker, which is, I don't think you really hear it, but you definitely see it, and it's there. So when it comes to making drum and bass, jungle, and any of these genres of music, you really need to high pass things that aren't bass. So if it's not bass and it's not the kick, you need to get rid of a load of the low end out of it. So what we're going to do is roll this off. In fact, I probably should have used number 3. Roll it off there. In fact, even higher than that. Now, if I roll it off there, it basically still sounds exactly how it did, or at least how you'd want it to, right? This is without. In my opinion, all the sort of good bit of the shaker is still there, but look at how much. It's like 2/3 of the frequency spectrum has been removed. And that just makes sure there's no sub bass in it, and we're not just like eating up all our headroom and clashing with the bass of the track. Now what you can do is get some reverb. Now I'm going to use the reverb quite subtly on this one, I think. So when I say subtle, there's a few things you can adjust. You've got the decay time. And look, this is something you need to also be careful of, because as I've just been banging on about, it is a high-pitched sample, which most of the information is up here, like in the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kilohertz, right? So when I drag the reverb in, you might notice that it says high cut, and it's cutting out all the top end. Now, if you put in reverb onto something that you want to have top end, it might be a good idea to not use the high cut or just move it up a bit. When I say subtle reverb, I mean turn the wet dry down. This decay could be shorter, but 120 is not too long, to be honest. And then you've got the size, you can make that a bit smaller. And altogether it sounds like this. So one thing we could do is make an intro to the tune using the Reuben pad, and oops, what I should do really first is grab everything and put it where it's supposed to be, which is, oops, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to command an X and just cut that and paste it on bar 33. Why is it not working? I'll just move it instead. All right, it's on bar 33. All right, so we've got our 32 bar intro ready for action. Now, let's just take all these Reuben pads and paste them there. And now let's hear what the Reuben pad and the Think Shaker sound like together. Sounds like this. Control and X. Yeah, I did. I cut it, but then when I pressed Command and V to paste it, it just didn't paste, so I had to move it instead. So when it comes to making the intro to the tune, you can make some new bits like I just did with bringing in the Think Shaker, and you can take some bits from what you've already made. For example, it could be the Think and the pad for a certain amount of bars, like 8 bars or 16. And then at some point, it could suddenly come in with the reggae chords. Like that. And then it sounds like this. And then Hot Pants. And you know, before I was showing you how to duplicate a track and then change it, you know? So the top one is going to be our main Hot Pants break, and then the bottom one, I'm going to rename it as Intro Hot Pants. And on this one, I'm going to change it in a few different ways. So what we do then is delete these so that they're just the intro ones there, and then here, delete all these, and now you've instantly got another Hot Pants break layer, which you can, I mean, I think it should do a bit more of a subtle pattern since it's just the intro. Actually, it'll just be the first bit. Get rid of all that and then just duplicate all this. And it makes... Take care, Blade. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is a long one, isn't it? It's actually the longest stream I've ever done. So if anyone's learned anything so far, please make sure you click the like button, and that'll make it so that the stream gets shared with more people. And we can just build up a little community here of everybody that's just like working on this tune together. And what you want to do, so see how I've separated that into its own channel now called the Intro Hot Pants. What you can do now is go to your auto filter and drag that in, and you can put it on like a bandpass filter. Know what I mean? So I'm going to have to start speaking a bit quietly now because it's actually like midnight here in Barcelona. So I hope you can still hear me. And I'm going to go turn off MIDI keyboard and then press A, and that brings me into the automation mode. And then if I just move this around, touch the frequency here, then you can make it go up like that and then back down again. Let's have a listen. Alright, just so everybody doesn't end up getting bored, I'm just going to play you what we've got so far. Just duplicate that one more time. Duplicate this. Give you something to listen to in the meantime, you know what I mean? Shout out Tara Bass, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you can join next week. Yeah, you know, actually, I've been actually pretty consistent. This is the, I think, 4th Sunday evening that I've streamed in a row, so I'll definitely be back. Just check the channel next week. Sometimes I announce it before, you know, on a Friday night I'll announce that I'm going to go live on a Sunday. Other times I might just spring it on you on a Sunday night. So what do you guys think? How should this tune start? What should be the intro? Right now we've got the Think Shaker and this pad, but honestly it sounds fairly boring, so it needs something else. And one tried and tested technique that I've done before is if you just grab the first reggae chord, so like put this on, grab that there, paste it at the beginning with far too much delay and reverb on it, and it should go like dum dum dum. Reggae chords. See, this should be on the 3rd. Ping pong, more feedback. I'm not sure if this streams in stereo, I hope it is, and then you can hear the ping pong delay going left to right. And you know, I can't actually, it's been over 3 hours and it says that 3 people have liked this, so I'm not sure if mine's malfunctioning or if that's really how many people have liked it, but that's 1 like per hour. I think it would really be helping me out if you guys could like the stream, and then just more people are going to get added to the stream, you know what I mean? So C minor, just like kind of talking to myself here, but the C minor chord also needs to be thrown into the intro there. Oh, big up, yeah, 17 sounds more appropriate. So I think I'm glad the chat works because everything else is frozen. All right, so I'm getting sidetracked here. What it should have been is that bit doesn't need to be there, and the C minor goes there. All right, and then sometimes it's easier to just delete everything and then copy and paste the whole thing like this. Cheers, Paul. You know, I got paranoid. I used to use this instrument called a melodica a lot, and I'm not sure if I've got it on this laptop, but I used to have one that was like a multi-sampled. I mean, that could possibly work. I used to have like a multi-sampled one that somebody had recorded and put it into the sampler, and it was called Melodica Boom, and it was a perfect recording of a melodica. So I'll need to copy that over from my other laptop, but in the meantime, let's just try a simpler with this one. See if it sounds all right. Wait. Melodica. Do you guys know what a melodica is? It's like a little plastic keyboard with a sort of a tube that you blow down. Why am I not hearing it though? Oh yeah. Yeah, this is the thing. I was saying before, I'm a little bit wary of using the... Is it weary or wary? I'm basically a little bit cautious of doing my classic sampling technique of using the black hole device because I don't want to mess with the stream. But I definitely agree that this needs a vocal on it, like, or at least just someone saying something. But before I start playing this melodica, let me put some effects on it. Should we try a different delay? There's all these different ones. Wait. Delay and loop. I was playing with the grain delay before. I never used these presets, but maybe I should. 5 grains to kick toner. Minor third down. What about rush? Okay, that sounds terrible. Grains. Alright, this is why I don't use the grain delay, because many of the presets. That's not bad. I mean, it's usable for something, maybe not right now. Good suggestion, Paul. Let's have a look in the Blue Mar 10 folder and see if we've got any vocals in there. B, Blue Mar 10. You know, I tell you what, there's one that I used to use a lot, and then everybody in the maybe around like 2012 or something, there was like a wave of loads of guys making Ragga Jungle, and they all used to use these same samples from this Breakbeat Paradise if you go to the Ragga Jungle section. But it has been 12 years now, so perhaps I could permit myself to go back to it. Real old school breakbeats. You know, like I was saying before, I do have like more samples than I could ever use in here. So look at that reggaeton. I mean, I never even knew what reggaeton was in the days when I got these samples, you know. I'm not sure if reggaeton was even invented, but clearly it was. Anyway, samples. Let's find that Ragga Jungle one. Okay, here we go. Let's take a little trip down sample memory lane. I don't know if you guys have got this, but
6 million ways to die.
These are some
6 million ways to choose one.
All guns up under the house.
All junglers. All right. Hold on. All right.
Well, I'm Babylon.
Hey. He could fit in there. Hey. Barrington Levy.
Well, I'm
Or is it Levi?
bad boy.
Who's the bad man? Who can draw?
Whoa. Blood clot. Boop, 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 boop. Bumbuckler. Bumbuckler.
If you hear any that you like, just let me know. Some of these are played out. Some of them are pretty cheesy. I like this break actually. Anyone, if you know the original name of that, Break 2 Worries. Worries in the Dance.
Come on out. One. Who can draw? Come on out.
That one. Yeah, this is the thing. if you're someone who can play the guitar or play the bass or play any other instrument, it does make music production, you know, you can combine your hobbies. It makes it fun. And I've recorded bits of acoustic guitar, but I guess you have to have a good mic and a good room, and well, it depends on what kind of sound you're going for. If you're up for recording some kind of lo-fi sound, then I suppose it doesn't really matter. War is in the dance. Makes sense.
This sound and a dibby dibby sound. This sound and a dibby dibby.
That one's what's he called? Tenor Fly. Rest in peace. So all these ones are from, I don't know if you've ever seen a movie called The Harder They Come, starring what's he called now? The harder they come, the harder they fall, one and all. Anyway, there's a, not to spoil the movie, but there is a shootout scene at the end, and that's the police. Who is the bad man? Who can draw?
Draw!
I use that get down in the. Do you remember before I was going on about the Jamaican fella in America who basically somebody came at him with an AK-47, but he just pulled out the Glock, and I used this get down, and then I used I'm a lick him with this one. All these are just bits of dub.
What kind of game them girl ever this play? Me no know. Give me good sense,
Love that one.
Give me a dub play. All up, pull up.
And on here in Spain, they have this tradition of on New Year's Eve they eat 12 grapes when it's about to strike midnight. No, when it does strike midnight, and then there's like the 12 bells. And every bell, they shove a grape into their mouth. And it's just a bit of fun because by the 12th bell, you've got way too many grapes in your mouth. Anyway, my girlfriend bought us some grapes for that. And it had this sticker on it saying sin semilla, which means like without seeds. And I took a picture of it and put it on my story with this sample here.
Give me good sense, Emilia. Hey. All up, pull up.
I make hits, not the public. I tell the DJs what to play.
Love that one, yeah. So that's from a movie called Rockers. Is it Rockers? No, it's not. It's Harder They Come Again. So Harder They Come, he's like trying to make it as a reggae singer in Jamaica, and then this is like some gangster who controls the music industry. I make hits, not the public. I tell the DJs what to play.
One who can draw, just come out.
Keeping it real, you know. Not a mercy.
All right, let's just play the track and then see if any of these actually fit.
Not a mercy. Not a mercy.
Kind of like the Lot of Mercy, but maybe it should be pitched down a bit. Lot of Mercy.
Not a mercy.
Try that. I feel like it should be like 2 semitones pitched down.
Not a mercy. Not a mercy. Not a mercy. Not a mercy.
Sorry. How about repitch?
Not a...
Do you ever do this? If you get a sample and stretch it out a bit. Wait. I think first I need to turn off warping. No, first I need to put it on normal warping, then stretch it out a bit, and then put it to repitch, like this. Oh. It's to do with the grid, I think. Turn off the grid. Stretch it out a bit. Put it on to repitch. Obviously that was perhaps a tad too much.
Not a mercy.
You know what I mean?
Not a mercy.
Then me never tell you about the ragamuffin business until
You guys must have heard all of these samples in all different tunes throughout the years, you know. I remember one. I can't remember where or when I heard it, but definitely heard Let Me Never Tell You About the Ragamuffin Business and Ting. I've used that Marley break. That's so sick.
When me a murder sound, me no play
No girl tune.
Now my selector. And what we stand because what you know? One man just come out. One man. What you know where some boy are dealing with this? Original ragamuffin.
So I feel like this is just a stream of me going through far too many old school Ragga Jungle samples at this point. So I'm going to play the track just so you've got something better to listen to in the meantime. Did me never tell you about a ragamuffin business and ting? You know, before I was telling you about the Andy Druddy thing, before that I used to just get bits of guitar like this and just chuck that in there, or I'd play like one chord myself. But when I got that Andy Druddy pack, it changed everything because I just like had every chord in every, you know, A sharp, B minor, all the rest of it.
People sell them soul for a slice of bread.
Love this one. I could make a track out of this. No doubt many people already have.
Not a mercy.
And you guys are gonna kill me. Do you know why? If you look up here, it says untitled. I've been doing all this and I never saved it. It's a terrible habit. I'm just gonna call this stream breaks. Easy. I'll just leave that in place. I like that change actually. Yeah. Oh yeah, the melodica. It's a bit of a theme of this track actually. I keep like adding an instrument and then just getting totally sidetracked. And then coming back to it. So yeah, and filter delay is a great tool, but I feel like you need to. It's got a very specific use case, you know, and in most cases it's just better to use the normal delay. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Augustus Pablo. He's a dub guy from Jamaica who basically just like makes dub tunes and then plays over them with a melodica. And he even does live shows where he plays the melodica on stage, and he's an absolute boss. And ever since I discovered him in the 2000s, I've loved the sound of like dub music with a melodica on it, you know. Now in this section, mallet guitar can also go away. this section. Yeah. Wait. You know, when I first put that melodica into the simpler, it sounded cheesy as hell, and it's amazing that just a bit of delay and reverb, I'm not saying it sounds like a real one, but doesn't sound bad, does it? So something like that. I'm going to hit record. And by the way, I've been using Ableton for a long time, as I keep saying, but you see up here, these two lines, the one that goes down and the one that goes up, these are called punch in and punch out. And what happens is, if you give myself a run up here and press record, what's going to happen is, with the loop marker, as it comes in, it'll start recording here, and it'll just record for this section, and then there's the loop out marker, and then it will just stop recording and carry on. So watch this. Let me just quickly have a little practice of what I'm going to play. Right, let's go. Right, so you see the melodica track, nothing's recording on it yet, right? But wait till it gets to that loop marker and watch what happens. I just realised that actually, so you see it started recording the clip, so that's amazing, but I realised that actually the particular little riff that I want to play, I actually need it to come in a little bit earlier. Why? Because it goes. So that little dun-it part is actually before the one. So it goes like this. Right. It goes like this. You see, I kind of stopped it, but you see how it went past the end of the loop marker and stopped recording. So that's the punch out. So it's called punch in and punch out. And honestly, I can't believe I didn't already know about that feature, but now I do. So that's really useful for, like, let's say if you're working with a rapper or a singer and they've already recorded the whole vocal, but then they just got one word wrong or something, you could just put these markers around the one syllable or the one word and press record and then just tell them to sing it again, and then they'll just sing it right and it'll just punch in that one little section. It's sick. Anyway, I thought I played it, or did I play it? Alright, let's see. I'd say this little note here should have been longer. Oops. Maybe that's a bit late. I'll just put that. What I like to do is, if something's, I feel like it's too late, don't put it on the grid, but just move it towards the grid. That one was as well. That one, so late. In fact, to be honest with you, I'm happy with the first round. Let me just get out of automation mode for a sec. And duplicate that 4 times. Wait. Bear with me a sec. And then it should go. I just wanted it to do like 3 of the same and then 1 different, so it goes like this. Here's it all together. Better hit save, you know, and get in the habit. And I don't even know what it wants when it's asking me, do you want to leave it in place? I don't remember recording anything. But you know what? It was like, I was making one of these tutorials. It was the how to make a jazzy jungle tune. And I recorded my own bass guitar. And then I tried to save it and it was like, do you want to leave it in place or delete it? So I clicked delete, just thinking it was some random crap that I don't need. And then it just crashed the project and the bass guitar disappeared and one other thing that I'd made disappeared. And then you still do have your undo save. What is it? Undo save history. So I was able to bring back the tune and bring back almost all of the layers apart from my freshly recorded bass and one other thing. So yeah, definitely should be in the habit of saving it earlier. Listen guys, it's getting late now, so I reckon I am going to have to wrap it up. And I'm sorry I never added the vocal sample. But let's listen to it one more time before we go. Just starting from the drop because I never really made a good intro anyway. So here it is from the drop. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody who's locked in. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. And let's do this again. Now, actually, next week, to be honest with you, I'm going to be in the UK next week and I'm going to visit my parents. So I'm not even taking my laptop with me. So unfortunately, I'm going to be having a week off. But the week after next, on Sunday night, let's get together and we can either continue working on this one or we can just start a new tune together, you know, and do the collaborative production, because it's really fun. It's amazing. I think it's worked well. So big up Paul. FM, is it FM Oral? I've got the pronunciation wrong, but I know your music, and you know what, FM Oral, we submitted tunes to the same stream, which was Human Synthetics, and out of the tunes that he evaluated on his stream, I thought yours was one of the best. It's amazing. So big up, man. Big up everybody who's locked in. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Join me again and let's make a tune together. Take care.